because everybody loves math. We have Ms. Hill and Mr. Word.
Seems weird. I can't talk to people and sit.
So we'll let her stand however she's comfortable. So can the video adjust to a standing person? Okay, excellent. All right, well, let's get started. Ms. Lowe?
Good morning, everybody. How are y'all today? So hopefully we're past all of the ice days, because I told somebody if we had to decide one more time whether it was going to be an A or a B day, I was going to pull my hair out, and I don't have that much to begin with. You know, it is one of the issues that we have to make sure that we do is coordinate with our other schools, because we do share some staff members, we share some foreign language teachers. So we cannot arbitrarily decide that we want our schedule one way without considering what they need to do as well. So we have to come to consensus as a group of principals. So I apologize if it frustrated anybody over that time when we had to make that first initial change. And honestly, that was my mistake, because I forgot to include my colleagues on that decision. And they very quickly emailed me and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I went, oh, my bad, but then they forgot to include me too. So we were all kind of working in an icy delusion. So we've got that figured out. Since then, we have been texting each other ridiculously, what if this happens? What are we going to do? So hopefully we're back on schedule. You know that Monday we had said would be a B day, which was a good thing. We had another ice day, so that's going to be just our A, B, and we can continue on. I would like to talk to you for just a second, because I don't think I've said it to this group. We've had the official school report card for our school for last year. We are the only middle school in AISD to receive 3 levels of distinction. Yes, we met recognition, but we also got 3 levels of distinction out of 4. We got top 25% student progress in math, student progress in reading. The only one we didn't get was attendance. Our attendance was 96.2, but in our group of 40 schools, our comparison group that we are compared with, that wasn't the top 25% of those 40 schools. Everybody had really great attendance. It was right up there, but that's okay. We're working on that too. But we're really proud. Let me talk to you just for a second. There's 4 indices that we're rated on now. The first one is overall student performance, and that includes every student in the school for every test they take. So like an 8th grader takes 4 tests. So multiply 4 times the number of 8th graders. They take all the number of tests. How many of those you meet the standard on? It's crazy. So that looks at everyone in the school. Indexes 2 and 3 look at our separate student populations. For our campus, that means they're looking at our economic status group, so our kids that qualify for free and reduced lunch. They're looking at our Hispanic population and our African American population. In all 3 of those groups, we were number 1 in our comparison group in student progress. So that means the progress that those students are making, and that's index 2. In index 3, what they're looking at is how well we're closing the achievement gap between, in our case, the group that we're not looking at in 2 and 3 is that Anglo group, the white group. So now, how are we closing that achievement gap? And once again, we were number 1 in our comparison group for closing the achievement gap. So we're really proud of the strides that we're making here on campus. And I can't tell you enough, it is taking everybody working together. And I am really excited to have Diane on board to help us. We're just making really good gains. We have a long way to go. I will admit that. But we're making progress, and that's what we're trying to stay focused on right now. So, do you have any questions about that or concerns?
Who's in the comparison group?
You know what, you can go online to look at, if you go to the well, first of all, there's a link on our webpage, but you can also go to the Texas Education Agency website, and on the left-hand side, there's a testing and accountability link. Click on that, and the first page of it, if you scroll all the way down, there's a link, and you can look at our specific report. There are 4 reports in there. 4 separate reports. There's a 1-pager, and then there's all the statistics that went into figuring out indexes 2 and 3. And then there's a list of our comparison groups. I'm trying to remember.
Statewide or district?
It's statewide.
Okay,
A comparison group means they look at schools with similar demographics that you have. So they're looking at your populations, your number of low socioeconomic students, your overall number of students. They wouldn't compare a school with 40 students to a school with 1,000 students. We actually have 3 AISD schools, middle schools, who are in our comparison group. I know Henry and, was it Small? I think Small was one of them, and I can't remember the third. So if you'll look at that, that is on there as well. And you can see the other schools that we're compared to, not just in our district, but across the state. Now take in mind, that can change year to year, because it depends on the demographics that are reported for that year, is how they control those groupings. So, yes ma'am.
Question for this year. It's my understanding that the 8th graders in geometry are going to have to take the 8th grade STAR, the math. So how is that going to work? Because they're 2 years removed from that material.
The teachers are working on that, and I'll let the math teachers address that when they come up in just a minute. But they're going to be working on that with the students. Don't worry. We're gonna prepare them for it.
It just seems silly. They didn't take it last year because they took the DOC.
I agree with you 100%. Nobody likes the fact that this is the option, but we still have not heard about the waiver from the federal government. The reason they're having to take it all goes back to No Child Left Behind, and the fact that you have to have a math rating, right? A math test. If we don't test, what happens is we have a large number of students that will go down as not testing, and that will affect all of the rating. So TEA has recommended to every district that 8th graders take the 8th grade test, or 7th graders take the 7th grade test, whatever group it's impacting. Yeah, I wish we didn't have to do it that way. And I think for next year they'll come out with a better solution. But for this year, it is what it is. Any other questions or concerns? Yeah.
Just a clarification on the rankings here. Did that include the whole school, or did it divide up the programs? I'm sorry.
It's okay. For the ranking, Index 1, that comparison was the whole school. Index 2 and 3 was also the whole school, but it only looked at those specific student population groups. But yes, anytime we're rated by the state, remember we are one campus. But what I love about this is it's no longer, and for kids too, it's no longer you passed or you failed. It's, are you making progress? Because a student who has significant learning deficits, that's a struggle, and it takes time to build back up, right? And so to recognize that you're making gains in those areas is tremendous.
Thank you.
All right.
That's perfect timing, because I want to add to that. Not only does the student gain show a struggling student that's progressing and learning, and you know they're just rocking and rolling, but in addition to that, it's saying that we're also taking our high achieving kids and pushing them to grow as well. Right. And that's a very different challenge, but a challenge of its own. So I can't believe this is only the second meeting that I've been here for, because at this point I feel like I've been here forever. It's awesome. I've had a great time. For starters, this is, not just Magnet, but just had to be sure everybody knows that our Latin club went and competed back on February 8th and we only took 12 kids. It was one of the smallest groups, but even with the small group, they beat out a lot of schools. So we're pretty pumped about that and really proud of them. I've learned a lot and had fun through all of the lovely snow days, communicating with the other magnet programs. As we've kind of had to make a few decisions along the way about the application process. Some of you may have noticed that the deadline was extended. Many of, probably everybody sitting up here, and plenty of folks have answered some frantic emails and phone calls along the way of parents very concerned that we wouldn't extend the deadline, which, oh my gosh, we're not going to say, nope, sorry. Anyway, it's been fun to kind of start to work with them, and we work very closely along the way to be sure that we maintain consistency among the programs. So that's been a really great experience. Just so you know, we've got a little over, well, as of yesterday, a little over 600 applications, and we're working on getting them all scored at this point. That is a feat, but I've been just pretty much blown away daily by the support of the teachers and their willingness to not just be flexible with all the snow days, but to really step up and help make all of that happen. There's no way it could happen without them, that's for sure. And then shadowing is going like crazy. Renee Otkin is amazing. In case y'all didn't already know that, she is the mastermind behind organizing all of that, and I can, just this morning on my way in, I was thinking, you know, we just couldn't, I don't know how in the world that would be happening right now without her. I mean, you know, when you're desperate and you have to figure something out, sure, you do, but man, absolutely amazing, especially with all the whole A-Day, B-Day thing affects a lot of things, including shadowing, and she has handled all of that beautifully, and I can't thank her enough, that's for sure. And last but not least, every time I go in a classroom, you guys hopefully already know this, but there are absolutely amazing things happening here for kids. And you know, a few days lately, I've been kind of holed up in my office a little more than I prefer, working on choice sheets and all that good stuff. You know, just yesterday, I had 2 different teachers come in and talk about different things, and just made my day. They are so pumped and excited about what they're doing. So anyway, it's a great place to be.
And before, I wanted to add 2 more things real quick. First of all, next February 20th, next Thursday night, we are having the McCallum lead counselor is going to be here to talk to parents about House Bill 5 and its implications. So whether your child is planning on attending McCallum or not, this is valid information for all parents. So I would encourage you, we'll be sending all that information out in the Hornet Herald and an email blast. We just got confirmation that that was the date she was able to come, so that we get really good information out to you. So plan to come Thursday, February 20th. Was it 5:30?
I think so.
Check the Hornet
I
Herald.
think it's 5:30. It'll be on the Hornet Herald. I think we're kind of at the moment planning on the library. I think we're going to end up moving to the auditorium, because I think we're going to have such a large turnout. We're going to need to be in the auditorium. We're not going to be able to fit in here. So it may be either place. But that's an important meeting for you to be at. Whether you have an upcoming 9th grader or not, it's going to impact your 6th and 7th graders as well. Also, I just wanted to echo what Diane said. So I'm walking in this morning. Remember I talked to you about the flipped classrooms and what Patty and Mr. Word are doing in their classrooms? So I come coming down the hall, and Charlie Applegate goes, "Miss Lowe, I'm so mad at you." And I said, "What? What did I do?" He looks at me and goes, made me flip my classroom, and it worked. He was so excited, and he found a new program, a new app on an iPad that worked. So he didn't, because he says he has terrible handwriting, so he wanted to be able to import his PowerPoints. He was so excited. So I just want y'all to know that the teachers, our teachers never quit learning and trying to improve their practice for what they're doing for your children. And so I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Very exciting. All right, less exciting but necessary. We need to approve the minutes from the last meeting. So if you all would just take a minute, those who were here last time, and kind of skim them over. Oh wow, that was your first meeting. That
Yes,
it does
it was.
seem like forever long ago.
Time is a weird thing.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Second? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, they're approved. Is Ms. Garcia here?
She is at elementary schools this morning.
Okay, all right then.
Yes.
Maybe she
Sorry
can put
about that.
something in the Hornet Herald.
Oh, Joe, I was thinking, I'm sorry, I thought about our eighth grade
Other
counselor,
groups.
the
Oh,
other
okay.
counselor who's
Uh-huh.
working. I'm not sure why, Joe. I can go check on her though.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, she wanted to come, if she, I mean, it's up to her. Well, if
I'll
she
go
wants to
check.
come at the end of the meeting, that's fine.
Okay.
So we can do that then. All right then, Ms. Hill and Mr. Word. So I'm
Move over for them.
I assume most of y'all know Patty Hill and Michael Word, and so Ms. Hill, you teach algebra and
1 and 2, yes.
1 and 2, and Mr. Geometry.
I take geometry and I have one class of algebra, 7th grade.
All right, take
So
it away.
So first, I'd like to thank you all for approving the iPads. Love them. The kids love them. We all thank you so much. And I have to say this: I've been here 16 years. And I might get a little teary. Sorry. But I have never felt more supported by parents and faculty and administration in my 16 years here than I felt this year. So it's really amazing. Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you for leading the way.
It's like, I feel like I have to.
Innovation.
I have to. Anyway, so also let's first talk about that STAR thing. So the kids who are enrolled in a high school credit class do have to take their grade level STAR. So 6th graders in algebra will take the 6th grade STAR. 7th graders, 8th graders, they all take their grade level. In addition to that, the Algebra 1 kids have to take the end of course exam for Algebra 1. However, Geometry and Algebra 2, the EOC has disappeared, so the only test those kids will take is the 8th grade or 7th grade STAR, depending on what grade level they're in. And we are addressing it. All of the kids who are in Geometry and Algebra 2 took the 8th grade MOI, and I don't anticipate any issues with that. Because the 8th grade test has a lot of overlap with algebra and geometry, so there shouldn't be any issue with them not knowing the content. But if we do see like a vocab or something, little issue in there, we will address it from the data from the MOI. The Algebra 1 kids, what I'm doing with my students is I'm giving them the MOI for the end of course exam, because that to me has a bigger impact on them because it's part of their graduation requirement, and I want to make sure they get that level 3 committed on that. And how we're addressing the 7th grade is how we've addressed it in the past when we've had to give multiple exams. I'm putting review questions that are actually on the release STAR exams to make sure that they can do those. And since I flipped my class, I work with the kids in classroom now. So when I put those problems on, like every activity, I've warned the kids already, everything we do in class, there's going to be a little review section. And I've told them there's going to be, the STAR questions on there. And so if I see something that's causing an issue, and it's likely to be some vocabulary thing that they forgot, like the difference between complementary and supplementary angles, then I can address it right there. So if I do find something that is really troubling, it's most likely going to be something geometric that they haven't seen in a year or so, then I can make a little video and make them watch it for homework. So I'm not worried about the STAR. I have never, in my 14 years of teaching algebra, had one of my algebra kids not pass a grade level STAR. So don't worry about it. That's our job to worry about that, and I'm not really that worried, so don't worry.
And the students, the one thing I will say is because they skip 7th grade and 8th grade, some of those things that get covered, Well, we addressed them just maybe in the same time frame and things like that. So they might have come home and said, there was things on the 8th grade star, you know, that I've never heard of. And I was like, and I told them, I was like, that's because we just haven't done it yet. We're going to go deep into it, and they're going to know it, and they're going to, by the time they actually take the test, it's going to be fine.
Yes.
What happens if you have a 7th grader who took the 8th grade star last year? And they're not here, it was at a different school.
They have to
take it again?
They get-
Yes.
Well, they're going to take it to they're taking 7th grade?
They have to take it again.
In 7th grade, they took the 8th grade star.
They have to take it
They're
again.
taking 8th grade.
I have spoken to many people about this, and it's
That's why I asked.
infuriating.
Y'all seem like you understand that.
Yeah, no, they have to take it again. It's
They'll
really
take the same
annoying.
test again and
Yes.
two scores for the 8th grade.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they, like what Ms. Lowe said, they have to take a test, you know, and the other option is you could take the algebra EOC, but
No,
lesser,
they have
lesser
to-
evil would be, yeah.
Because of the wording of No Child Left Behind and the interpretation of that law, it doesn't matter if you passed the test before. Because I have a 6th grader who passed the 6th grade star last year because she was in Eames, and she's got to take it again this year. So they're like, they don't care, just take it again. They just need the data. Like, that's really what it is. And it's horrible and annoying, and it annoys me to no end, because I believe if you're going to take a test, you should take a test on the class you're in. And my Algebra 2 kids should be taking that Algebra 2 under course exam. They shouldn't be taking an 8th grade test. It's infuriating, but that's above my pay grade. I'm not the Secretary of Education, so I can't really deal with that, right? So what we're here for, though, is to talk about math options. And I'm assuming these are math options for kids going into 7th grade, because that's more of the issue, because by the time they're 8th grade, you're kind of like, yeah, they're 8th graders, whatever. So we're going to talk about 7th grade in general. And once again, I've been here forever, almost ever. And from my many conversations with students over the past 16 years, and kids who've left Keeling, they all say the 7th grade year is the hardest year at Keeling. And it's because all of the 7th grade teachers have super high expectations, and we take the gloves off, and it's like, you're in a magnet program, you know? And so all of the teachers kind of up everything, and then the subject matter in general just all becomes more abstract. So the 7th grade year is a tough year, and we realize that. And so math is kind of can be kind of an issue, because you have 2 options really. You have taking algebra as a 7th grader, and you have taking what we call advanced math 7. Okay, and I'm going to talk about algebra first because I've been teaching it for 14 years, it's my expertise. Okay. So there is something that has to happen in your child's brain for you to be ready for algebra. And it's called reaching the formal operational stage of development, which is when you can begin to think of things abstractly, right? And so not every kid reaches that at the exact same time. So algebra is not a class for everybody. Okay? There are certain things that we look for to predict algebra readiness. Okay, and I have this, okay, normally I give this as like a presentation, you know, with PowerPoint and everything. I'll email the link because it's a Google Doc, and you can read all of the stuff we put in there, because there's a lot of information that you need to know if you're thinking about algebra for your kid. Okay, so first off, there's some things that we consider algebra readiness, like ready for algebra. Okay, so first, it's like skill and vocabulary mastery, which is the part that makes sense to everybody, right? You're like, oh yeah, my kid has to know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide fractions in order to be able to do algebra, right? And I want to add this about mastery, okay, because this is something that, working with the kids this year, I've made many, just these many revelations is the word I'm looking for, about the way kids think and the way they work because of flipping. And I have come to realize that there is a difference in opinion of what mastery means and what it really is supposed to be. What mastery really is. It's not skill mimicry, right? So if I show you how to do something and you can do the exact same thing, that's not mastery, that's mimicry. Mastery is, I can ask it a different way, I can put it in a context where I don't explicitly tell you, that's the skill you have to do, right? And then you know how to, and then you can do it. So if you really truly mastered a subject, you're not just spitting back out what I tell you to do, right? And so that's what true mastery is. So you have to think about, if your kid's doing homework and you have to show them how to do everything and then they can do it, they haven't achieved mastery. And they're probably not ready for algebra if you have to do that. Or else you're going to expect to be having to do that for every math class they take from now on. Right? You got to kind of let them go and see if they can do it. Right? Second thing is Abstract thinking skills, we can kind of test that, see if you get variables or whatever. Organization, though, is key, especially with the flipped class. You think that, oh, because we're flipped, that, organization's not a big deal. But on the contrary, it's an even bigger deal. Because when I flipped, I realized that I was putting the responsibility entirely on the kid. Because it's their responsibility to go home and watch the lesson, and come up with questions if they have them, and then come to class and work everything out. And if they're not understanding something, they have to ask. Right? So it's all on them. And so they have to be organized enough to watch the lesson, to take the notes, to ask questions, to keep track of assignments. I give them everything I can, calendar or whatever. But they have to be really organized, or have mechanisms to become really organized, or have support where that their notebook is like an explosion of paper or whatever. You have a way to help them get organized, right? And then there's this issue of maturity. And the issue of maturity comes with the fact that it's a high school credit class. And there are implications of algebra that do not exist in any other class. And it's mainly that the grade earned in algebra will appear on the high school transcript. It is actually the first class printed on the transcript. So it's not like it ever goes away. That grade is right there. It may not be calculated into the GPA because of the new system that AISD uses for that, but it's right there in the transcript. So if you make an 83 in algebra, you print out your transcript for high school or for college, that 83 is the first thing they see. So your children have to be able to maneuver through that and be okay with whatever grade they get in the class if they stay in the class. And they have to be able to take a final exam. And they haven't done that before. So they have to be ready in December to take an exam that counts as much as 6 weeks of work. That will get averaged into their grade, no corrections, as is. Okay? So and they have to be able to handle that. I mean, it's very stressful. Once again, we help them as much as we can, but there's some kids who really can't handle that stress at all. And really, why push them into a class that's going to make them hate math if they're not really ready for it?
And they're pretty young.
Yeah.
And they don't know any better, and that's what as parents we have to come in and say, you really can't take this 75 with you. Even though you're passing, you can't continue on in this journey, things like that. Part of the reason I'm here also is because I see them, if they pass algebra, right, I see them in geometry. And no matter what, every year there's always some students that will pass algebra and things like that, but when they come, the bottom falls out in geometry. So it is a choice. That's on the natural progression, and if you help them, I've had several parents. It's like, well, we help them through algebra and things like that, and we said, oh, I'm not doing that again. And then guess what happens in geometry? When it was there, it didn't work, right? And so they had to drop my class, and that's what at least we can do. We can do like a do-over. We actually can't drop the class in December, and so they go into 7th grade and 8th grade.
Yeah. We do have some safety nets. It's not like, you're in algebra, you're stuck in it, rah! In December, if you're not doing well, you can drop the course. You can drop it, and it counts like nothing, like you never took it. And so we always have that. And by December, you usually know whether or not the class is for you. I mean, we have some kids who just like cling on because they just want to stay in the class, and and they're the ones who have trouble the next year. Well, because we would try to make math fun. Of course, you want to stay in my class, right? Anyway, so let's.
You want to talk about? So
we'll talk about like what the implication of taking algebra as a 7th grader. Okay, so if you do, it's not all cons. Like I know I'm sounding like raw, this is scary. It's not. It's a great class. We learn a lot. The kids learn a lot. I have a lot of fun with them. More so this year than ever before. Because this flipping thing is amazing. Love it. Now, some of the benefits of taking algebra as a 7th grader is if you are ready for it, then you take a class that actually challenges you, right? And you get to be in a peer group of kids who will push you. And you get to take some really awesome classes and progress through mathematics and learn a lot, become great problem solvers. And I designed my course with the idea that my students will be going to LASA, because if you're going to teach in a magnet program, might as well shoot for the stars, right? So I know that the kids who do, most of my kids do end up going to LASA, and the ones that do have a lot of math classes they can take. And so it's not like you take 4 and you're out. You know, you have algebra and geometry as a 7th grader or an 8th grader, then you take algebra 2 and then pre-cal, you can take calculus, and if you go to LASA, I have a whole list of classes they have after that. They have differential equations, AP statistics, multivariable class calculus, logic, number theory, and advanced mathematical reasoning, and linear algebra. So they have all of those options. So if you have a student who's like really mathy-sciencey, taking algebra as a 7th grader is the way to go. And then other schools also have other math classes you can still take. Algebra 2, pre-cal calculus, there's usually statistics. And I know because more kids are taking algebra younger, these high schools are starting to offer more and more math classes. So it's not like they're going to stop taking math as a sophomore. I mean, that's really their choice. The opportunity for them to go really far and learn some advanced mathematics is there. And that's one of the benefits. Now, if you wait a year, it's not like those benefits dry up and go away. Because taking algebra as an 8th grader, you still can take algebra 2, pre-cal calculus, statistics. There are some schools that allow kids to double up. Some of these classes are a semester. They can take a lot of math classes and still be on that track. So there's nothing wrong with waiting a year. It's not like those classes go away for you. It's just maybe you have to double up 1 year to get the same.
And that brings up a good point, things like that. Just because you're able to do so, that may not be the best choice to do so. Does that make sense, right? If you're active in, this is when sports comes in 7th grade, right? If you're in dance and theater and things like that you're going to take up, you don't need to put another thing on your plate necessarily, right? And that's the discussion that we want you to have with your student and such. You know, this is going to be a big challenge to start taking this algebra on in 7th grade. And there's nothing wrong with taking it in 8th grade, and it's still going to, get a hit.
Do the 6th grade math teachers talk to them about it? Because I have a feeling that my son has a best friend that's taking algebra this year, 6th grade, and I think that he's going to have a thing like, oh, I have to take it next year. So I don't know if the teachers can talk to them about that a little bit so that they don't have this I'm stupid if I don't take algebra in 7th grade.
Yeah, I'll talk to them about that, but this is a competitive group of kids.
Yeah.
And it's a competitive group of parents. It's kind of hard to nip that in the bud. We can talk to the kids, yes, but whether or not they internalize our talking to them, our conversations with them, is a different issue. We need your help with that.
Right, but I think that when parents say things to kids, sometimes they block it out even more.
Yeah.
But just the things that you're saying to us right now, think about it. If you want to do sports and and it doesn't mean your chances try out to take some cool stuff in high school.
Right.
No,
all that kind of thing.
I will talk to the 6th grade teachers and make sure, I'm pretty sure they do around the time that it comes up, because our choice sheets are coming out in theory in a week or so, and that's when the conversation starts, but then it really starts with 6th grade when the testing comes out, because we reevaluate the kids to make sure they've retained the information that they need for the whole year. And I can make sure that they sort of emphasize, it doesn't matter if you take algebra when you're ready. It doesn't mean that your life's going to end or you're stupid because you're not in algebra as a 7th grader.
Yeah, if they bring up these other aspects, I think it'll help.
Yeah.
Not just are you intellectually ready, but all these other things.
All these
emotional and mature, those things that, you have to have a whole panel on.
Yeah.
But kind of in relation to that, these 6th grade teachers that have our students in math, do they have an opinion about whether or not our child should be put in algebra?
Yes, they will.
Did they give that to us?
Yes. Yeah, you get a letter. You get a letter. You get a letter.
Prior to the kids?
Yeah, they do. They do. They'll send home a letter. It actually gets mailed, so it doesn't go through. You'll get it. No, they do. It just doesn't happen just yet because they don't want their course to be a race for algebra.
Right.
So they don't. And the kids are going to talk. Yeah, I have 6th graders in my algebra class. And they're going to talk, and that's just the nature of the beast. We can't nip that in the bud. But the teachers totally will talk to you about it. They will have plenty of data to help guide you in your decision, because they do give a test to reevaluate the skill and algebraic reasoning section of it. And they have worked with your child the whole year. They have a whole year picture of their performance on tests and how they work in class and their organization. So they are more than happy to talk to you when they know it's coming, because they've been here a while. They know parents are going to ask them about this, and please do ask them.
That's what.
Ask them, talk to them. If you're on the bubble or on the fence, like, sit down, have a meeting with them and talk to them about it.
And what they may not know is how active they are outside of school. Things
Yeah,
like
they
that.
don't see
And
that.
it might not show up in 6th grade. And we kind of,
No, it doesn't.
in 6th grade, there's a lot of hand holding, I think. Everything's new, right? And so it's a little bit easier thing. And that's why 7th grade seems to be the hardest year, is because, okay, you've been here a year, you know, this is how it really is, you know. So, yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that my 7th grader is in the sales class, and I was one of the parents who did not want her to take algebra. I talked to the 6th grade teacher, talked to Ms. Hill about her saying, they were right and I was not. I was worried about her, because I see a different kid at home. You see Elizabeth.
Oh, she's like a rock star.
But, you know, I see the tantrums, I see all the stuff that goes along with being an adolescent, and you see her when she wants to be really on top of her game. So I think it really is a hard thing to accept sometimes, that yes, your kid's a little different at school than you expect.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of information, and you were always there to answer questions, so thank you.
It's my job. And she is a rock star. She's pretty awesome.
For those of you on the video that maybe could not have heard that, a mother just talked about how the teachers give very accurate recommendations about what the children, again, are ready for, and that they see a different child in the classroom, so it's good for parents to listen to the teachers about what the kids should do.
Yeah, and you have, with the teacher's information and your information at home, you get a fuller picture of what can happen in the 7th grade year. And I'm going to say this too, if you're like wondering what algebra is like, there's no need to wonder. You can go to my website, you can actually see me, how I explain everything, and you can see everything that we do in class. My classroom is like an open book. Like, you can go to my website and take the class if you want. So if you're curious, you can see what the class is going to be like, the kind of things that I ask the kids, the way I explain things. You can also do a little skill check if you're worried over the summer or whatever that they forgot how to do with integers. I have my algebra book is posted online. You can go through and look through the review sections to make sure your kids are ready to go. So that's another thing that you can also look at. Another piece of information you can get is to see what the class is actually like, which is something that you normally don't get to do, but because I flip, you can totally see everything.
Well, lastly,
yeah.
if they're not in algebra, 7th grade's still going to, I mean, they're going to say, well, 6th grade's been easy for me and things like that. It's still going to, because they're going to push in all the 7th grade, you know, information and the 8th grade information, and they're going to be ready for algebra in 8th grade. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let's talk about if you don't take algebra, what happens. You take advanced math 8, and it's not just a rehash of 6th grade.
7.
Okay, because the kids who are in advanced math 7 have to take the 8th grade STAR test. So what that means is that the 7th grade advanced teachers make sure the kids know all the 7th grade TEKS, obviously, and they have to make sure they know all the 8th grade TEKS as well. And here's the thing, I don't know how many people know about what's happened with the TEKS. Algebra has been pushed down into, algebraic concepts have been pushed down into the middle school grades. So 8th grade, the first actual semester of 8th grade is really like algebra. And we're actually in sync with them in terms of concepts. Like we do, like their first 6 weeks is working with numbers, you know, because you have to make sure the kids know all the number stuff, right? Second 6 weeks is solving equations and inequalities. Third 6 weeks is a unit on linear functions, where they have to write equations for tables and for lines. They have to graph lines, which is what we do in algebra. The difference is the depth. So, for example, in 7th grade advanced, when they learn linear functions, they primarily stick to the form of the equation called slope-intercept, which is y equals mx plus b. But in Algebra 1, I do slope-intercept, point slope, and standard form. Right? So it's not like they're just going to rehash integers all year. It's going to seem like that in the beginning when they take first 6 weeks, because you really have to make sure the kids skill-wise are there with all of the little bitty, you know, integers or fractions, whatever. But then as soon as the second 6 week starts, it's algebra. It's just the problems aren't as challenging, they don't go in as much depth. So it's not like they're going to be sitting in a class that's not going to challenge them. They will be challenged in 7th grade. And
With
the whole point of with new material, with basically algebra. That will better prepare them the next year, which is the whole point of 7th grade math. Because not everyone's ready to take algebra in 7th grade. I wasn't ready to take algebra in 7th grade. I didn't take it till I was an 8th grader. And you know what? That 7th grade class, its whole purpose is to get the kids ready for algebra, and it totally does. Because those teachers know those kids. They know all of the little things they have trouble with. They know their issues with organization, they know their issues with maturity, they know their issues with due dates, and they know their issues with the mathematical concepts and skills that they're struggling with, and they address all of those. So it's not like if you wait for algebra, like you're going to be in a boring math class. You're not. You're going to be actually challenged in 7th grade math as well. And that's another great thing about the whole TEKS thing. Like, this is benefits to us. So if you do drop algebra in December, you didn't miss anything because they did the same thing we did. The only thing that's different is this semester is when they talk about the proportionality, geometry sort of skills that are part of the 8th grade TEKS, like the dilations and translations in a plane that algebra doesn't do because that's geometry, right? So
if they drop algebra in December, do they just carry their grade over?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
My son's in advanced magnet math, and I have to say, it's been great for him because he's learning and not feeling pressure. He's feeling like he's understanding it, he's doing well, and it makes him feel more confident. So he kind of knew he wasn't ready for algebra, though he could have been in algebra, but he came home and he said, I purposely didn't answer some of those questions, Mom. I really don't want to be in algebra. And I said, well, it's okay. And then his teacher said, I don't know why he didn't get in algebra. He didn't do well on the test, but his grades were great. And so I said, well, at least he had the maturity to know I'm not ready for it. And he's had a great year. And he said, but I got to be in algebra next year now. So he knows that he's ready to move up finally. But it's been so I think it's a really good year for kids that maybe are struggling in other areas like writing or or science. It takes some of that pressure off that 7th grade year. So
Yes.
I have a question. Okay, so if you're a parent that doesn't want your child to take algebra in 7th grade, but your kid is doing really well in 6th grade math, loves math, really wants to take it, but my fear is that got twins in the same boat, but that their extracurricular activities are, they swim every day. We have to be at swim practice at a certain time. There's no downtime in our schedule. Would it be better to, just pull the parent card and say, no, you're not doing it, or would it be better to say, try it, and then pull back?
So I got to tell you, some of those students are either that they're good time management or they're not, right? And the ones that don't have any time out of class, they are on it. When I give them 5 minutes in class, they are making best use of that time because I've got ballet or I've got I've got to go swimming.
Right.
I don't have any time for this, so I never have to say, hey, where's your this or that. So if that's your daughter or then it's not a deal breaker that you don't have any time out of class.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And what I suggest is you can say, well, we can try it. We know that we can drop it in December, but we are going to an 80. Right, we didn't really talk about it. A suggested score, you need an 80 average. You can maintain an 80 average. And even if you're making that 80 average, do you want to continue for the second semester?
Right.
Because how much effort did you have to put in to do that, right? And we have to maintain that throughout the year.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
Is the approach different for teaching Algebra 1 for the 6th and 7th graders versus the 8th graders?
This year it is because I'm the only one in algebra flipping. So.
Well, but also the 7th grade algebra students are best, right? There's 6 or 7, there's a fair few 6th grade, but those are the ones that I get to see and.
But they're not separated.
No,
they're all together.
6th and 7th graders are together.
Right, that's right.
They're separated.
But the 8th grades are, we do keep them
different.
separate because I've taught, I've been here long enough to have taught it every different way. So I've taught it so that all the grade levels are mixed together, and some of the 8th graders felt left behind because some of the 6th and 7th graders, they honestly, some of them come to me knowing algebra, and the 8th graders are like, oh man, that little 6th grader knows more than I do, and it was it would cause some trouble for them. Because their confidence levels weren't so spectacular when they were all sort of squished together. And I'm seeing some of that with some of it's not so much with 6th and 7th graders, because I have some 6th graders who are super little rock stars in algebra, and the 7th graders don't have that same kind of reaction as an 8th grader and a 6th grader would, right? So the course is the same in terms of what's taught and the sequence it's taught in, And that's the only, and it really it was just because the kids, you know, it really didn't help the 8th graders to see a little 6th grader half their size, you know, get 100 on a test and with very little effort. So that was one of the reasons why we sort of separated them out. That and the whole field trip thing just kind of killed everything, you know, and you have half your class is gone. But no, seriously, the course is basically the same. And I am working on the other algebra teachers to flip because it is like super awesome. And so hopefully, the hope is next year that it will be much.
But even if they're in the class, it's not like they can't watch the videos.
Yeah, but the
They're not
experience of
locked
class
out.
is different.
Exactly,
So.
that's true.
Yes. Are you going to talk about, is there only everyday algebra now, or is there a difference between I thought there was an everyday algebra class.
For 8th grade, yes.
For 8th grade.
Yes.
Versus going every other day, correct?
Yes.
You're talking about the 8th grade option.
Oh, the 8th grade options. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, told you about 8th grade. So the 8th grade options for algebra, you have two. And our goal is everyone takes algebra before you leave here. I mean, because how are you really an advanced academic magnet if you don't leave with algebra, right? So that's kind of like our goal. It's like we want everyone to leave with like this awesome algebra credit, right, and understanding. So we have two options of algebra in 8th grade. We have the traditional, like my class, that meets every other day. And then we know we have students who need a little bit more time and a little bit more help. And so we have the everyday algebra option. And even if you think even if your child is recommended for the every other day option, you can have them take the everyday option. Or if they're recommended for the everyday option, you can put them in the every other day. But those are the two options for algebra.
In 8th grade.
In 8th grade. And they can still drop it if it's not going well. They can all that stuff is still true. It's just because the 8th grade TEKs are now basically algebra, everyone's going to be in an algebra class in 8th grade. It's just you kind of decide which version of algebra you want to be in.
Ms. Hill, I
Yeah.
thought there were going to be 3 options for algebra
In
in
8th
8th grade. That was mentioned at the beginning of the
Oh,
year.
with Mary talking. Oh,
It was like an advanced algebra and then a
yes,
regular.
that's the other thing. I
algebra
totally
and
forgot
then
about
a-
that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so we're trying to do some new things because we're trying to make algebra for everybody. We have like I think the goal for this year, and this is new. Sorry, I totally forgot about this. We're going to have like the topics algebra, which is the class I teach the 7th graders. Then we're going to have a more traditional honors algebra, which is kind of the algebra that will be taught at any other middle school. And then we're going to have the everyday option. And I believe the everyday options is going to be the topic version. Is what I want to say.
They all get the same credit.
They all get the exact same
It
credit.
all looks like the same when you transcript.
It all looks, yeah,
So, okay, we need a little more information on exactly what, so topics algebra is what you teach them, course that you made up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do this, and it's every other day. And then that is the same as the everyday. What you learn is the same as an everyday algebra. You just do it every day as opposed to every other day. You have twice as long to master the material.
Yes.
Twice as much time. And then your kind of middle thing that you put your hand in the middle, that's why I'm doing it,
Yeah.
was this other, could you
Yes.
explain that a little more?
It's a more like the traditional algebra, so some of the scope and sequence will be more aligned with what other schools are doing. So it's not our curriculum necessarily, it could be more like the AISD type algebra, where like the extra kind of things that I put into my class aren't in there. Because I do teach a little bit beyond Algebra 1, honestly. And so those things that I put into my topics class won't be in there. But it'll still be this, it'll be
Liberal arts
algebra, it'll still
algebra.
prepare you for geometry, it'll prepare you for Algebra 2. Because like some of the things are like with the exponents and with the exponent rules, I go a little bit further with exponent rules. That's not going to happen in the other class.
So when the 7th grade teachers are evaluating our 7th graders and going to recommend to us which class they should go into, how are they going to differentiate? How are they going to differentiate between those 3? What are they going to look for?
We honestly we've never done that before, so
Okay.
that's something that we have to look at because that's never been we've never offered that. It was either you took the topics algebra or you didn't. You took it every day or every other day. Like this is all new, and I still have to talk to my department and figure out how we're going to maneuver through that and talk to our new director. That was sort of Mary's initiative, talking to some of the other teachers, and so we haven't had time to hash that out.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So it's okay, to be decided, that's
Yeah.
fine? That's
Yeah,
fine.
because that's brand new, so we have to really think about how we're going to evaluate our students and what kind of data we get from our tests to figure out how we're going to place them, or not really place them, but recommend their placement. And some of that decision's on y'all and the kids, because some kids are like, no, I don't want to take topics algebra. No, I don't want to. And so some of y'all will be like, no, topics algebra is too much. So I mean, it's just sort of, sorry, nebulous right now. I apologize.
Because everybody last year passed the 8th grade tests.
Yeah, everyone last year passed
Everybody
the 8th
at
grade
the end of
star.
7th grade.
I think that was the
100%, and so that's why we need a
I think that was
class.
the deal, is because
No
when
reason.
we had Mary Ramberg back, who had been a director for a while, she saw, well, all the 7th graders passed the 8th grade star, so why aren't they in algebra? So that's when this whole thing came up, and we have the different levels in 8th grade. That's when that conversation started. So
Some of that's gonna come down to personal family choice.
I think so too.
What you're thinking about for high school and things like that.
Exactly.
That whole topics track goes all through LASA, like you can take geometry with proofs or without, algebra 2 with proofs or without, which is the same thing as topics. There's that track, that if that's not what you're looking at, that may not be what you're interested in.
yeah, yes.
I have a question. Why is that algebra 1 and algebra 2 divided by zone?
Oh,
By
that's
zone
a
it is
that's an AISD decision.
Or state.
No, it's AISD, because there's some schools that do Algebra 1, Algebra 2 geometry, but AISD has chosen the sequence to be Algebra 1 geometry, Algebra 2. So that's why we follow that.
I feel that if your kid is not lucky to forget algebra 1 by the time he got algebra.
Oh, but that's my job, to make sure that we don't forget. And that's exactly right, you're right.
It's really a district decision, because I have seen districts that do Algebra 1, Algebra 2 geometry. So it's really, that's just AISD telling us, hey, you have to go this order. Yes?
I have 3 questions about the 6th grade and 8th grade. My 8th grader's taking is doubling up.
Can you speak up just a little bit so that people in video can hear?
Okay, my 8th grader is doubling up. So they're not taking the EOC, so how are they gonna get the ratings 3 that they're supposed to
They don't
get?
need it, apparently, anymore.
They don't need it to graduate?
They need algebra, which I think is absurd, but it's yeah, that's what I've asked everybody I could possibly ask about this, and I've talked to people downtown who are talking to people at TE8 directly about this, and I said, what about my Algebra 2 kids wanting to be on the distinguished graduation plan, not being able to take Algebra 2 EOC and getting a level 3 on it? And they're like, oh, TEA is just going to waive it for them. That's what I said.
I know.
That's not on the distinguished plan anymore that way. It doesn't have that level.
They have to rewrite it.
Yeah, I know, they changed it all.
So they won't be on a distinguished plan, but do you think?
No, they can be.
They'll have a distinguished
No,
plan,
they'll
that's
be on the
just not a
distinguished.
requirement for the distinguished.
Yeah, it's not a requirement anymore. They just cut it out. It's gone.
Okay, and then for my 6th grader, if I put him in algebra 1 next year, will he give you?
It depends. It depends. Okay. Here's the thing that might happen. Because next year I have at least 15 kids who have to take Algebra 2 because they're currently in geometry as 7th grader. And I have no idea how many kids are going to double up because we haven't had that conversation yet. As soon as the choice sheets come out, that's when it starts happening. And if I have more than 10 kids who want to double up, who I would recommend to double up, I might have to teach 2 sections of Algebra 2. In which case, I could only teach 4 sections of Algebra 1, and historically we have about 6 sections of Algebra 1. So if that happens, then your child has a 2/3 chance of getting into my class. But if I only have the 1 Algebra 2, and we still have the 6 Algebra, it's just all kind of numbers.
Most likely.
And, okay.
It's most likely.
And I request, so for 7th grade, you're saying you're now flipping?
Oh yeah, it's flipped. Flipped.
Right at the very beginning.
Oh, no.
Well,
No, second 6 weeks. No, I looked into a system that seems to work, because for flipping, I have to establish classroom norms, like what it's like to work in a group, because these kids don't know how to work in a group. I don't care what they say. They don't know how to work in a group. They don't know how to collaborate. They don't know me at all. So I can't just show them videos and have them totally. It's like showing a Khan Academy video. If you don't know me, it doesn't matter. Right, so I have to set that first 6 weeks of establishing, me as the expert in the class, and hopefully an expert, and my relationship with them, and the weird little things that I do. Like I have little hamster erasers, because they're middle school, you gotta play a little bit. Right, the Cthulhu little mascots or whatever. I have to establish all that in the first 6 weeks. Talk to them about working in groups, how to collaborate, all that stuff. And second 6 weeks we flip. Now geometry and algebra 2 next year are going to be flipped from the beginning, because those kids will have experienced the flippiness, so they don't have to necessarily establish like that. Because honestly, The thing that I notice that kids have trouble with in algebra, it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with like how organized they are. Like it really does. Because if they're not ready to, dive in, or they're a little if they have issues with that. So I have to make sure that they're sort of ready to go. Yes.
Question, this is just inquisitive. Have you run into a case where the flipping doesn't work for some students?
We have seen resistance in geometry, but I think that's mainly because of the kids who have gone through Algebra 1 successfully and gone through the first semester of geometry successfully have established something that works for them. So when you change the system on them, they're like, ah! Right? And so some students, are kind of resistant to that. But the Algebra 1 kids have had great. Yeah.
Well, they used to have open-ended, they could take as long, if it took 2 hours, they would take 2 hours. And now I'm cutting that down that we're going to get it during class time.
Okay. That's geometry.
And they don't like not finishing. And so they want to do every
genetic.
Yeah, I mean, they want to.
Ms. Hill?
Yeah.
You were talking about not being ready for algebra doesn't have anything to do with intelligence, but with organization.
And their mindset, yeah.
You've talked about the options for dropping algebra if you take it in 7th grade and coming down to a different class. What happens if your 8th grader is struggling in algebra and doesn't? What would happen with that?
The plan is that you drop it on paper, so you would get credit for taking 8th grade math, but you stay in the algebra course to get the experience because you've already passed the 8th grade star once before, and we will make sure you pass it again for testing purposes. But there is no point in not giving you that experience to help you the next year. So we're not going to move you out of the course. You're going to be in the course. The teachers will have to take allowances for grade issues to make sure that the student performs well enough to pass or whatever. But we're not going to have them switch to another teacher. That's I think the thing that's going to be new.
And that happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that happens.
Oh yeah, no.
Quite a few. Yeah.
Because if they drop my class, they stay in my class. They've already passed algebra. Right?
You keep
So
the
they
teacher,
don't go back.
you don't get algebra credit because that's the thing that's hurting you. Is if you're getting like a 70 and you don't want to carry a 70, I don't blame you for not wanting to carry a 70, then you can drop the class and it's like on paper you never took algebra, but you still get the learning experience, you still get the material, stuff like that.
And then you just take it in high school.
Right. You just take it in high school. And I've had kids who've taken algebra 7th grade with me, dropped it, took it in 8th grade, dropped it again, and then took it in 9th grade. And it's because they weren't ready for the responsibility. They were just like, too much. Yes.
Can you explain real quick the benefits of an everyday option over every other day, or do you see benefits either way?
It's dependent on the student. If you need a little bit more time in class with your teacher, then you take it every day.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I have a 7th grader who's taking algebra 1 with you right now, and she absolutely loves math, and she really enjoyed your class, and it's come to the choice for next year. I just want to know what's the possibility for her to take double up on both geometry and algebra 2.
I have a set criteria. I've had to establish it because I have some kids who really should try to double up. My recommendation is that you maintain a 95 average or higher for the entire year, and you get level 3 commended performance on the Algebra 1 end of course exam. If you can do those 2 things, then you can pretty much double up. And I'll tell all the kids, because the kids are going to ask me, and I'm going to post it on my website, all the criteria, and I actually make them write me a little paragraph, why do you want to double up? And there'll be a little form online. That's going to not happen until later though, because I need to evaluate them more. I can't tell you now who can double up, because we really don't hit the Algebra 2E level stuff until after spring break, and I need to make sure that they can handle the quadratics unit before I make the decision on whether or not they are someone I would recommend for doubling up. But those criteria will be announced to the kids, and they'll be posted online on my website.
We won't know until the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's actually not a problem. It's never been a problem before that I've been able to send a list of Algebra 2 kids towards the end of the year, and they get put into my class.
And what are the pros? I'm sorry. What are the pros and cons of taking both math, or both geometry and algebra?
You're taking 2 high school credit math classes, and his geometry class. I'm not a geometry person, but I think his geometry class is pretty challenging. And I try to make Algebra 2 challenging. It's very specific to a certain student who loves math, who's really ready for it, like skill-wise, maturity, everything, and they want to push themselves because they want to like go to MIT or whatever. Like those, it's a very specific small group of kids who double up. And it's not something I recommend to the vast majority of kids at Keeling. It's really like, you got it, and you should be in Algebra 2. And had you been a little more mature as a 6th grader, maybe you took Algebra 1 as a 6th grader. Like that's that kind of kid. It's like, it's really, I have 18 this year, and there are 18 of them. So it's a really small group of kids. But the benefit is you get in a class with kids who are just like you. And they form this friendship. Like Julie Carroll and her daughter took Algebra 2 with me a couple years ago, and the Algebra 2 class sort of created this little family where they always help each other out, and they made this little study group that still exists. So they're right now at Lasse's, Mr. Davis's BC Calculus class, and they have a little study group already formed. And so they work with each other, they push each other. You know, they're really good friends, and you know, they support each other through that class, and they're all going to push each other all the way through. So that's sort of like a benefit, but it's, you know, not for everybody. In the back, yes?
I very carefully wrote down your readiness list criteria, but I have a question, I'm not sure where it fits in there, which is if you have a kid who in math constantly makes really careless mistakes.
That's the
maturity. Like the level of maturity or mastery
No.
of these criteria, like they, like really stupid.
No, not at all. See, that is what I call the plague of middle school, and if I could cure it, I would be a billionaire. Because we have kids, our math counts kids who are in Algebra 2. I've had kids who've been in pre-cal as 8th graders. Drop a negative sign. I drop negative signs. You can't cure that. The only thing.
I can believe mess up like a multiplication.
3 times 2 is
like
5.
a 6 times 8 or something.
2 to the 3rd power 6. And they have a calculator. Like, no, it's something that they work on. Like, you have to be conscious that you make those mistakes. And one of the things that I like to emphasize in my algebra class is correcting things that you mess up on. And like, I know, because I was that kid too, I know I make 2 mistakes. I will transpose 2 numbers, and I'll drop a negative sign. So when I go back and check, I am very aware that that is on my list, and I check it. So what has to happen in algebra is your child needs to develop that list, or whatever math class.
Yeah, but he has like 10.
That's fine. That's part of the issue, though, is you have to be pushed and challenged to correct your mistakes.
And then like part 2, that question is, if he's doing a homework or something, you'll see in the end that if it's a word problem, he almost always gets it right without mistakes, careless mistakes. But if it's just a flat out numbers, it's like wrong, wrong, wrong. And I don't know, because they're so, and I don't know if that's why that is, it's the way his brain works or something, but.
It's middle school. Like, I'm not joking. Like,
so that's not necessarily like a warning flag.
No. No, not at all. No, that's something we work on in algebra and the other classes, is fixing that kind of thing. It really is, you're a middle schooler, your brain is like 20 different places, you're careless. I have kids who type things in wrong in the calculator, like, I typed in and you want to just, you know, it's like, no matter how perfectionist, everyone does that. That's just middle school. So don't freak out by that. It's more of an issue if they don't understand how to do the problem. That's an issue. Like if they see something, they're like, I don't know what to do with that. That's something to be concerned with. Oh, you dropped a negative sign? Psh, stop doing it. Like that's it. So that's not nothing to
Over and over.
That's common.
How about 3 more questions, and then we'll let
in the back there, you have your hand raised first.
Yeah, so the flip versus the non-flip is I know they're doing different stuff at home, but from a time perspective, what would you estimate problem solving at home versus watching the lesson?
So what's your?
So flip, if you're teaching flip versus the way it's taught now mostly, where you're doing problems, where you're actually doing your homework at home, or you're actually reading the lesson or watching the video lesson at home. Is there a difference in time?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a huge difference in time.
So
Yeah.
a lot less.
A lot less.
A lot less, yeah.
In flipped class.
If flipped, yes, because daily the homework is to watch a lesson. I try to keep them like 15 minutes or so, and you take notes on that, and if you even watch it twice or 3 times, that's still less than an hour over 2 days. But you still have to do things like study for tests and do corrections and things like that. But as opposed to sitting there doing the homework for however long, a set of problems, there is a big difference in the time. And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get the other math teachers to flip. It's like pulling teeth, but because it's so new, people are afraid to do it. Like they really are afraid because it is very new and it's very different. But it has reduced the homework load for math for sure. Because and here's the thing. And I talked to Diana about this yesterday. It's, we have degrees in mathematics, so we're very far removed from what it's like to learn math. So when we think something is going to take like 30 minutes for the kids, that's with the perspective of someone who's already gone through it and is not learning it for the first time. But what I've learned since I flipped is I've learned the true amount of time it takes my kids to do stuff, right? And so I think a lot of teachers don't really realize that. I think that's something that's sort of missing. Because I see these kids, they're very hesitant, and they won't start something, they're unsure, so it'll take them forever just to get started. And so the benefit of the flipped is that, like, they don't have that worry anymore, and the homework time is less. I mean, they still have to study and all that stuff, but
it's substantial. When I asked my geometry students, that's like I said, hopefully your time at home is less, and they laughed at me because they were like, oh my gosh, it is substantial.
Yeah, and so that's I'm really pushing. I'm getting teachers in other departments to flip, which is weird, but I can get them out.
Yes. So 2 things. The 6th graders, do we get that letter before choice sheets come out?
No. Well, because do you want them to evaluate it on the entire year now?
Well, so you don't put them out.
Oh no, don't worry. We do that all
electives.
later. What we do is we populate all the kids in the same math class just to know how many sections we need, and then we separate out the algebra or whatever. It's not an issue. In terms of scheduling, it's not an issue.
Put them in the right class.
Because we want them in the right class. And we don't want to test them in February on material that they haven't been taught yet. So we try to push that test back as long as possible so that we can test more things.
It's like in May.
To see. Yeah, it's like in April probably.
Okay.
All right, last question.
Yes.
Do you have, this year at the beginning of 6th grader, incoming 6th grader, they gave them a test for placement for math. Do you do the same thing for 7th grade? After the summer, they do any math work and then decide, well,
Yes.
that's not where they want to be?
Yes, because we do offer, because we know that there's stuff that happens over the summer. And so the 7th grade teachers will put it out there, hey, you want to try to see if, you've learned some stuff over the summer, you want to see if you can get in. Yeah, we totally do that, yeah, no problem. We always want to put them in the right class.
So they don't have to take their grades.
Oh, no. It's not mandatory. It's more like, hey, if you think you didn't get an algebra, you want to think because you did a lot of work in the summer, you totally can.
But the choice is the parents.
Yeah, totally. It's not your kid's choice at all. It's your choice. No matter how much they want your, it's your choice.
All right.
Yeah.
So not all the algebra classes have flipped?
Not yet. No, I am working on that.
So who would you like us to email and help you work on?
Anyone who teaches algebra whose name is not Hill.
All right, thank you all
Our word,
so
our word.
much. I know we appreciate it.
If you have any questions, I'm department chair. I get paid the big bucks to field extra questions, so just feel free to email me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
All right, if y'all stick around for another 7 or 8 minutes, I think we can wrap up the meeting. So committee reports. Michelle, are you still here? Did you have a report for fundraising? No. Jenny? Any report? Okay. Julie? Is Julie passed away? Okay, there you are. Renee, did you have any?
Just 550 shadow students this year. We pray for no more snow days. I can't even say ice days because they're not even ice days. Weather days, let's say weather days. But everything finally has smoothed out. We've got everybody signed, and thank you wranglers who are helping out, putting in your time. All I can say is check the website, see what's open.
Okay, so there's still the volunteer spot.
Yeah, the volunteer spot is still, there
Okay.
are some spots still needing work, so.
Okay, thank you. Brooke, did you, I didn't see Brooke. Okay. Treasurer's report. Ken?
Okay, just real quick. So we didn't have a whole lot of donations come in during, since the end of the year, basically. But we're at about a little over 80% of our goal, with roughly 150 donations coming in. And we've got about 15,000 in the operating account right now, after accounting for the iPad minis that we purchased for the sales class. So good shape. And that's all.
Any questions for the treasurer? Okay, I have a few things that I wanted to flag, and I'm Amy Warr, co-chair of KMag. So the facilities master plan, we sort of, that's going on right now. It's being developed. And so that's the district's 10-year plan for facilities. And so I've flagged this before, I believe, but since the bonds for new schools didn't pass, there's definitely more pressure than usual on this facilities master plan to utilize our existing facilities. And that, that can mean boundary changes, it can mean, lots of different things for the district. So this is a really important process. So far, I haven't heard about any impacts for Keeling, probably because we're neither overcrowded nor underutilized. But some of you definitely come from schools, for example, DOS, that's very overcrowded, and so I'm sure you may have been here, you may have been visited by one of your Board of Trustee members. So there is a lot going on about this, and there are going to be some meetings, some regional meetings, talking about regionally what's going to happen, or not what's going to happen, but taking feedback. This is the time for feedback from the community. So there is a website for the facilities master plan to take comments. So you can look at what the trustees have put out as their guiding principles for doing this. And I will put that in the Hornet Herald, the website, and I'll also post the meetings that are going to be happening in late March, early April. So I just encourage you to pay attention, even if you're not hearing anything about it at your school and it doesn't seem like anything's going to happen. You just never know, because when you're trying to use existing facilities, sometimes things can domino. I mean, here, the magnet program uses Keeling. If the magnet program wasn't here, then Keeling campus would be underutilized, and so you never know kind of what's going to happen. So I just encourage everyone to pay attention, and I'll post those things. KMag is making progress on forming our own nonprofit corporation, since we are going to be detached from, who currently does our business and our accounting is Austin Community Foundation, and they are basically they're getting rid of all their small nonprofits or small organizations, and so we're forming our own 501c3 nonprofit, which is kind of an involved process. And I'd like to give a big thanks to David Rodriguez, who's a Keeling parent and business lawyer, who's helping me out with those forms. And along with that, because we'll be our own nonprofit, we'll need to do a bylaws revision. We have some bylaws right now, but we will need a more detailed set of bylaws to deal with the financial, particularly with the financial stuff that we'll need to be doing. So we'll need a committee. So if anyone, it's not going to be a big deal. It's going to happen, probably between March and May. I would say, a few meetings, some emails, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 hours work. If there's anyone who has some time to donate, who has an interest in helping us get some nice, simple, but bylaws that will cover what we need, I'd appreciate that. Please contact me or Anne Marie. PTA report is Susan.
I'm Susan Lowe, PTA fundraising chair and co-chair for Keeling Center Stage. Just a few things. Because of the weather day on Tuesday, our meeting was canceled, PTA meeting, so we are proposing to move it to next Tuesday, the 18th, but we'll send that out. It's not a confirmed date, but keep that in mind. We have currently started cafeteria recycling, so the children can start recycling plastics in the containers. So we
children to do that. Assistant principal Irene Garcia, head custodian, and Laura DiCarlo had gone to small middle school to observe the recycling, composting, and cafeteria. And we are going to start collecting compost for garden at Keeling next year, like they do in elementary school. And we weren't allowed to add this kind of composting this year because of the district budget restrictions. Let's see. And the teen leadership class has stenciled the recycling symbol on the cafeteria wall for the recycling center, and was going to do a public service announcement as well. Save the date, May 10th, there will be a picnic bash featuring our gardens. And lastly, I want to mention Keeling Center Stage. It's the fundraising event for PTA. It's a lot of you from elementary school are familiar with this kind of event. We'll have music and food and auctions. There's silent and live auctions. And the event is going to be on the 5th of April, which is a Saturday, no children, at Spada House Ballroom, which is just off the drive, close to here. And we are accepting donations and sponsorships for the event, so anyone who has access to businesses or owning businesses or know any friends who have anything that would be good for auctioning, please let us know. Everything can be found on the PTA website, Keeling PTA website, there's a link. And also we have our own website that's up, it's Keeling Center Stage. If you Google Keeling Center Stage, it will come up as an event right site.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions?
When I walked in this morning, I noticed the thing for the jeans that someone's collecting, and I hadn't seen that anywhere, that somebody's collecting jeans, and if somebody would put that out, you might get more. I mean, teens for jeans.
Do you know anything about it?
Homeless teens or something?
I mean, I know it's.
I know, but it looks like it ends tomorrow. But
okay, we'll try to figure it out.
Yeah, I had said, you know, I left the words out, but I hadn't seen it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Jean collection in the library.
Well, there's a big box right there.
Big box right in the library.
No,
blue jeans.
The front door.
Front door, okay, great. Thank you.
I have some questions about the language options for next year. This is part of the choice sheet selections, right?
Yeah, we were trying to put together a language presentation, but we haven't been able to schedule.
Well, we didn't figure there would be enough time to do both math
well,
and
right,
that
we couldn't do it today.
So, right.
So there's, we kind of ran out of time for that, unfortunately. If people have questions, where should they direct those questions?
Ms. Finkley is the foreign language department chair, and she would be an extremely objective person to answer any questions you have. I can pretend. I'm just kidding. I don't claim to be an expert, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
But I might be able to answer questions if you want to visit here in a minute. I'd be happy to. Thanks.
I have a small comment just for parents thinking about double up. Algebra and geometry and also taking IPC class in 8th grade. By doing it, you will have no place for electives in the schedule. And difference between Keeling and Lhasa is in Lhasa you don't have electives for the first 2 years. You just don't have time. Because they have mandatory classes which are not an ASD curriculum, but you still have to take engineering, ecology, great ideas, like magazines class. It's good classes, but you don't have choice. And children who study in Keeling, they love to make choices. So you need to keep it in mind that IPC is a great class. WNL, algebra and geometry is a great department. You're the one with it. But then you till 11th class you don't have tiny little space in your schedule.
Thank you for that insight. I've never heard anyone say that before.
And what is IPC?
integrated physics and chemistry. And it's a great class. Mr. Seat and Mr. Barton teaches it for 8th graders. It counts as a high school credit, but LASA doesn't really. They can take, you still have to take biology, chemistry.
But all 8th graders take that course, or it's an elective?
No, it's elective, but it's like a whole year elective, so it's really like.
It takes them.
Yeah. You still have to take years.
All right. We're adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.